the second or third episode was me trying to conquer. The fourth episode, I'll be honest, who told me to chew fucking gum? Oops. Now this will be the fifth episode where I tried to curse less.
Do you have any suggestions for how we can improve Julie?
Yeah, I mean, put it in the comments.
Qualities, call in.
Yeah, I'm trying to get closer with the Lord here.
And standing by.
Yeah, standing by. Feel free to censor me at any moment, but you cannot be censored. The Scheunemans will not be censored. But anyway, icebreaker right off the bat. Would you rather be Abraham Lincoln or Donald Trump? Ooh.
I like the idea of being stupid rich this day and age, to be honest.
I mean, dude, my like background for that was like, okay, so they both have people that like ride or die for like, oh hell yeah. Like, for example, the slaves were probably rocking heavy with Abraham Lincoln. Because he hooked them up.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Like he was doing dope shit. So dope people were like, hell yeah. And then with Donald Trump, like he's got his core fan base and they will raid the Capitol for him. Insane. I mean, yeah, we don't want to get too into.
No.
We don't want to cut the fan base in half.
They go very far, yeah.
Yeah.
It's extreme.
And so, by the way, first female guest, Alisha Martin. And we will get into all that is Alisha Martin momentarily. But I just wanted to, come out of the gate swinging, just have that energy of who would you rather fudge and be?
Bleep.
Marquise Beatty, who would you want to be, Abraham Lincoln or Donald Trump?
No, I like that whole idea because nowadays age of like the whole technology, everything we have now. Plus, also he has Trump Towers. He has a lot more than what.
I just purely want to know what it would be like to. I guess it's just two way different things. Because if you're, Lincoln, I mean, that's just in one perspective. You're like, what the fuck was life? What was life like back then? And then with the Trump thing. With the Trump thing, it's like, what the hell would it be like to be alive, like right now, the same time I am, but to have a whole different quality of life?
You're balling.
Yeah.
But also,
you're also hated, like you're a target too.
Exactly. Like they both had core fan bases, and they also both had people who hated them, and also the little pivot for Abraham Lincoln, because I was thinking it was going to be way too easy. I thought everyone was going to say Abraham Lincoln because he's just a G. But
the safest answer.
You're going to get assassinated.
Yeah.
So
that thing.
We're still waiting on Donald J. Trumpers we don't know what's going to happen there. But if you're picking Abraham Lincoln, you're going to get all that positivity of being a G, but you're also, that at one point somebody's going to put a cap in your ass. So
I also feel like now it would probably be much harder. I mean, that's morbid to think about, but if someone was going to plan to assassinate, American political figure, I feel like that would be so much harder today than it would be that many years ago.
Oh yeah, like all the walls you're going to have to break through metaphorically and literally. And I mean, this is kind of random, but what do they call it over there in Ukraine? The top guy, the guy who runs Ukraine. Like, it's not the president. It's the president of Ukraine.
It is the president. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, I sound dumber than I already do.
You too, right?
But yeah, he's survived 4 assassination attempts since all this stuff happened.
He is a. It doesn't shock me he survived assassination attempts, because even when we were at my mom's earlier, she was saying like, oh yeah, he's all scruffy now and was saying he's going to go fight for his country. And I mean, I
saw some posts about how his family, his relatives, they fought in World War II, and they were all about like just the underdogs fucking taking over and kicking ass and taking names, like he stands for this heavily.
Like I don't know, obviously I don't know too much about the Ukrainian president, but from what has come out of like everything that's happened recently, he's doing the damn thing. He really is.
He seems like just a cool dude. Like,
Yeah, he
he
does.
seems like he has a good moral compass, and then he's also not backing down from any of this, which is crazy. Like, that takes some balls. And
I've also heard like the Russians didn't know like really what was going on anyway. They they don't want this to happen also.
Yeah,
so
a lot of
it's a
them
whole
are
mix-up.
protesting and
Yeah.
oh, you mean the Russian people?
Yeah, Russia. Well,
No, they're probably like, come on,
well,
dude.
not like even like their armies and everything. I heard like they didn't. They woke up. Basically, I don't know. Like they're probably up and stuff, but they.
Yeah, we don't know what we're talking about.
It
but-
just came to them that they were just gonna invade.
'cause there's things that when it comes to warfare, there's even stuff that's called like laws of war, and it's basically the Russian, he's breaking all of them. Putin is like
That's
there's
nothing new for the Russians.
yeah, like they're killing like civilians and stuff. Like there was one video I saw online like yesterday morning or something. This old guy, just a civilian, was driving his car and a fucking military tank ran over the car or something.
We were
Like,
talking
it's
about this last
insane.
episode. He like the tank swerved into him.
Yeah.
And then just stayed on there and
He's
then
just
backed
a
up.
civilian. Like that's not supposed to happen during war. And
You know, he
he's
made
breaking
it.
Oh, he lived through
Yeah,
it?
he
That's
lived.
good.
He's not good, but I mean, he was a lot better than you would
Good as you
expect.
can be getting hit by a tank.
I watched the full video. He was just sitting on top of the car for so long. I was just imagining all that pressure and him sitting in there. He's like, what the fuck? What the fuck? I was just trying to get some bagels. Like, just something. Like, dude.
Just sitting in traffic one day and you just get hit by a fucking tank.
Yeah, just hit by a tank. I don't know.
I thought it was fucked up when I got rear-ended. That is nothing on that. Like, I bashed up my pinky. I didn't get smothered by a war vehicle.
Who do you even sue at that point? You can't even.
Honestly, you're just like, do I get your information
I think
or
his insurance will cover that.
yeah? What the
State
wonder what
Farm
kind of
wasn't
insurance
ready.
they have over there? Alisha Martin is here.
Thank you
Mark-
for having me.
Oh, it'll be a great time. I'm really excited for this. And
me too.
Marquise Beatty is here, and we got
Hey.
Colin in the sidelines, just
Hello.
observing, putting in those sensor bars, and he likes the podcast. We got some actual fans over here. I wouldn't call him a fan because he's a part of it, but
Yeah. But he's also here to hold my hand for moral support.
yeah. Did I already say you guys are dating?
Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah. Alisha Martin is the girlfriend of half of Scheuneman, and.
Ooh, I'm somebody.
And do you listen to the show, or do you just hear about it happening and like the things you hear?
Oh no, actually, he told me about it like from when you guys first started it. Like we've talked about like before I even heard like the first episode of the podcast, we always joked around and talked about like ideas for TikToks and weird advertisements and stuff. And then when you guys started doing the podcast, I actually didn't realize how fast you guys were starting it. And then he sent me the first episode, and I was like, oh, because he said you were working on it like the day before, a couple of days before, and then sends me the whole episode. I was like, damn, they're cranking it out.
Yeah, we both wanted to come out the gate running in a lot of different ways, but on the side of that, like I've been a huge fan of podcasts for years now. Like
I am too.
Yeah, that's all Julian does. Is
I'm-
listen to podcasts.
I'm Jew Rogan. They call me Jew, Hooli. I have nicknames, but yeah, I was thinking about that. I'm Jew Rogan.
That's just your way of getting through anything, like work, for instance.
It makes work go by so much easier. Like
When I'm driving, I'll put on like, I like true crime podcasts. I listen to the TMG podcast with Cody Ko, actually.
I need to get into the true crime ones.
Yeah, there's some pretty good ones.
But yeah, like it's just I'll just burst out. I listen to comedian podcasts mostly, like
Yeah.
the kind of ones that they'll talk about interesting stuff, but mostly they're just there to make you laugh. And
Oh, you showed me some crazy shit before.
I could go down a whole list, but it's just so funny because I'll be listening to one at work and then I'll just burst out laughing. And strangers will just be passing by and look at me like, what the fuck is going on with his life?
With this.
I mean, depending on the song you're listening to, that can happen. And music's great. I listen to that at work and stuff too. But I'm a big fan of podcasts. And the reason I said that is because I was really excited to have my own. And there was a little bit of pressure about like finally doing it and starting it, so I'd be able to like stop worrying about if I would be able to pull it off or.
But doesn't
do
it feel good that you did the damn thing? You started it, you put it up there, like it's coming along, dude. Like that's why I said I was surprised because I just didn't realize how quickly you guys were wanting to do it. And then he was like, "Oh yeah, they're working on the podcast," and then he was like, "Here's the first episode."
Yeah.
And then since then, I didn't have time to listen to last week's episode because I was really busy this week.
Say. Just kidding. I get
But
it.
so far, my favorite one has been when you guys had your dad on.
That I love that one.
Yeah.
That
Bob
was-
Scheuneman he's the OG, that's for sure.
And he'll definitely be back on because there's a lot of stories there. And yeah, I love that episode, but it's also attached to some trauma for me because of the fact that that's the episode I realized my problem, and I was just sitting there editing, wanting to do a lot of things to myself that I wouldn't do.
You guys have less than 5 episodes that you've done. I mean, I'm gonna take a stab in the dark. You don't have any real prior experience with hosting a show where you're talking.
No.
Yeah,
No
like,
public
speaking. If that's the least of your problem, you're fine.
I mean, we're still learning a new problem every day, but yeah, they're all little problems that can be overcome and stuff like that. I mean, the last episode was just the fact.
But it's from a third party perspective, though. It's definitely listenable. It's not like. You know what I mean? Of course, you're going to notice small things to fix and point out whatever, especially when it's your show. But, like, from just a complete outside perspective, it's listenable. It's entertaining.
I like that second adjective a lot more, but I do get what you're saying. I've actually gotten some pretty good feedback. I don't go asking for it because the podcast, it's meant to be a more of a low-key thing, but when you find it, I hope that you enjoy and love it and spread it all around. But I've gotten some pretty good feedback from a lot of different people, and they say that it's better than they would expect from somebody who has no like public speaking experience or experience doing their own show and stuff. And I mean, yeah, it warms my heart and fills my cock with blood. But anyway, yeah, and we're trying to, and Marquise has been doing great too. I'm trying to get Marquise out of his shell because once you guys truly get to know Marquise, you're going to understand why Colin and Alisha went to introduce him to.
Oh, my mom loved him today.
How did that go?
Yeah, I met her family today. Her awesome family.
But yeah, he met my mom and my stepdad. My mom, she got Colin and I Valentine's Day presents, which was really sweet.
Yeah, they shared some with me. I didn't get my own, but they shared some with me.
Why didn't he get a
teddy bear? She didn't know you
bear?
were coming. She would have. Yeah, but she got us like just a bunch of little stuff for Valentine's Day, and she got us each a big bag of the Ghirardelli Squares chocolate, like the good chocolate. So on the car ride home, Marquise ate some of that. So he wasn't excluded, and
I was
also,
excluded from this whole thing.
No.
He also faced a blunt in my mom's garage.
Yeah, I felt bad because her step pops wanted to hit it and stuff.
He's
and
on
like,
probation. He can't.
I just
Why? So did you ask, or did you just go?
Well, I knew from the bat before I even sparked it up
He
that they
asked
couldn't.
before we even got to the house if he was able to smoke weed there, and I said, "Yeah, my stepdad might, if he's not on probation anymore, he might smoke with you." And then when we got there, he was like, "Can I smoke?" And I was like, "Yeah, go out in the garage."
Oh, I thought you were saying your stepdad said that.
No.
I was gonna say bad boy. Your PO's not gonna like that.
We all. Me and Colin and Rick, my stepdad, all three of us smoke cigarettes anyway, so we went out to the garage to smoke anyhow, and we asked if Rick wanted to smoke, but his probation officer would not be thrilled with that, so Marquise got to face a blunt. Colin hit it a couple times.
Yeah, Colin hit a couple times. Yeah, we just...
But pretty much just him.
Dude, my probation officer was so nice because my first appointment, I went in and I told her that I had plans on getting a medical card. And she was just like, "Oh, if you want to get a medical card, I will never drug test you." And I was like, sounds like an easy...
Dude, lucky you, because my PO hate you. The first time I met this woman, you would have thought that I fucked her husband the way this woman spoke to me.
I mean,
she was so rude.
They probably hate their lives because they have to be the enemy to so many people.
Plus, they probably, I don't know, because like when I first got introduced to her, she was automatically rude to me. So I mean, I don't know, but I'm sure they deal with annoying people every day.
Yeah.
But like the first drug test she gave me, she was like, I don't know, I think she expected me to lie to her. I'm not sure, but I think that's what laid like the small gravel of respect she did have for me. Because the first time she went in with me when I drug tested, she was like, "Is there anything in that cup that I'm not gonna like?" And I was like, "Yeah," because they're gonna see it. I'm not gonna try to lie to you and act like
Yeah.
you're stupid, you know. So
Because, I mean, once you start to get to know people in law enforcement and people like probation officers, you start realizing most of them will try to do you as big of a solid as they can if you're just honest.
If you're being cooperative with them, and I mean, although I was not passing drug tests, I also didn't try to lie to her and say that I was. You know, I wasn't going to give them a runaround like that. Because at that point, I was like, dude, I don't have any. And I was attempting to, give them passable drug tests, but it was not working.
Sometimes that can be a harder thing than it seems to some other people.
Yeah.
But, okay, so,
Shit, I passed mine with a faint line.
dude, I've tried the faint line argument, and it usually just doesn't work. What do you mean? Like, the positive line?
I didn't even bring it up. It was faint, and the person was just like, yo, I mean, it's faint. I mean, we
You're like,
can't
oh,
really
it's
do anything.
inconclusive.
I just did a GB 3 weeks ago.
Literally, it was like, I honestly think it was a week and a half. I just chugged a couple gallons of water straight, didn't smoke, took the test, and
Those detoxify drinks from like head shops, like water boats and stuff, those do work.
do they?
Yeah, they're expensive. You're going to be paying like $50-$60, but they
Shit.
do work.
I've always doubted them, but now that I think about it,
did
now that
too,
you say that,
but then I had to use one.
how could they promote it the way they do without having some
don't
truth to it?
I don't know.
Because they'll be like, "Yep, clean in a day if you drink this
I think
syrup."
they try to advertise it as like it's just detoxing your body. Like, because there's like you could go on a juice cleanse, and
Yeah.
then sometimes it's called a juice detox. But
Yeah.
that's really just a health thing. So I think that's how they get away with it.
Because you really are just flushing toxins out of your body. It's just fun toxins. Once again, I feel like I always say this with every episode, but I think this is going to be a great one, and I also have a lot to say. So I'm just going to, well, for starters, just because I didn't get to say this last episode, you guys got to fucking talk to me differently now. I've been having DM conversations with rappers. And I'm obviously
Where's the crown?
I'm obviously being excessive or exaggerating, but yeah, that was a really big exciting thing that happened with the launch of this brand, and mainly like in the last couple weeks. I've never had any sort of interaction with like real big rappers ever. Like the most was seeing like a pretty big local rapper, Doobie and Crash, at the Polaris Mall, and I just passed them, and maybe a liked comment from Mike Will made it when I was younger, but
That's pretty cool.
yeah,
I would
but he
say
likes
that
a lot
the
of
most.
comments.
I have Chris Webby's cell phone number in my phone.
I mean, Colin's got the lead singer to Attila. I wonder if that's, I don't even know.
I didn't know that.
I don't know if that's still his number, but that was pretty fucking sweet when I heard about that. But yeah, so I've just been trying to like contact rappers and, tagging them in posts, and I've been getting pretty lucky. Like my favorite one was I DM'd Johnny Coco, which is a big rapper to me, and he's about to be very big, but I've noticed not many people know who the fuck that is. But he just recently got co-signed from Drake, and he has some really big songs, like On God, definitely check that out. Hustler's Heart's one of my favorite, and Champion, like they're big songs. He's got a bunch of like 300,000 followers, but he's not mainstream yet. And I had DM'd him a couple months back, just pretty much being like, dude, keep doing what you're doing. I love the music and everything like that. And some people might think that's embarrassing or whatever, but hey, a month or so later, he hit me back. And I think I had also said something about like, hey, like this song inspired me with this brand and everything like that. And so he hit me back responding, and we dead ass had like a whole conversation and everything, and he was talking about how he loved the brand and he watched the promo video, went out of his way to do that. I didn't tell him to do that.
Promo video is sick though. That turned out really good.
Yeah, I'm really happy with it, and we're going to be doing a lot of work with the guy who helped us make that.
I'm waiting for you guys to drop a mixtape now, honestly.
Dude, it would be the hottest
like
mixtape of. Don't even get me started on
bars.
TBFW.
Oh yeah, for real though, right?
Me and Marquise have always had aspirations of making music, and we rap all
I know
together
so
all
many
the time.
people that have had aspirations for making music, and it just turns out not good. I have more faith in you guys than that.
I mean, hey,
honestly.
I
I'm
think-
sure whatever you guys put out, I'm sure it would still not be as bad as what some people do.
I mean, we would definitely make sure it was listenable and everything.
Yeah,
but
of course.
I mean, we freestyle all the time, even just as jokes, and it's a good time.
Did you?
Anyway, TBFW is two boys from Worthington. That's what that
Love
stands
that.
for. And we just made that up when we were like 14
Yeah.
in middle school.
We just want to make a mixtape to get out the suburbs into a better
Swear,
suburb.
I swear. And the funniest thing is we made an Instagram for it, the official TBFW, as if it could be recreated ever. But
Why did we even drop it? Why
well, the funniest thing is we
wasn't
made
ready
this
for that
post.
fire.
We made this post about this song we were gonna make, and we had a title and everything. We were like, "It's coming soon this summer," and obviously it never dropped. And it's all our friends will see that and be like,
Damn.
"When's this coming out? When's this coming out? When we gonna get fame?" That's what the
used to
song
try
was
to
gonna be
put us
called.
on, though. I remember we used to.
I don't-
fucking like tell us or give us beats and stuff to try and like go
Yeah.
style over, and then like we got the mics.
He was the Dr. Dre of us.
I love that.
And I mean, there's a lot of things we could get into with that because, I don't know how much we could talk about. We could edit this out, but
Yeah.
some guy that was friends with Colin was also trying to help us out, and then it turned out later that he was a big old sketchball.
It's what we would call a skis.
I mean, dude, it's just. I mean, maybe we could just have Colin on to talk about this if he wants to at a later date, because that's a whole bucket of worms. But yeah, just pretty much weird dude that we didn't know was weird. Really wanted to get us into studios and claimed to want to help us get big, and then shit fell through. We found out.
You can be the new Island Boys.
We would be the Island Boys. The Island Boys ain't got shit on us, Marquise.
I have nothing but time for that statement.
If we were rappers, we would definitely be we would have dreads. I would have dreads.
You with dreads?
I could
I'm
dread
going
your hair
full
for
dreads.
you.
Are you gonna
Please.
bleach?
I know
them,
how to
or-
do it. I could do
How long do I have to get it?
it. You'd have to get a little bit longer. We could start it though, maybe.
I want to see it so bad.
Keep growing it, and I'll dread it for you, dude.
I really don't know how we got on this track, but I have a list of little questions that can spark up conversations, and I'm definitely going to be peppering into this.
Is this Colin's list?
This is Colin's list.
Okay.
I have a few things I want to say,
Go
but
for it.
honestly, I feel like I'll start with something from this list, and then there's. I'm trying to think of how to get into this, but I guess I will start by saying the things that we're going to talk about on this, I want to give you massive, massive compliments for, just because of the fact that this, like, you got balls, like, and you're not trying to hide from anything, and the fact that you're coming on here and you're open to talk about anything, I have massive amounts of respect for that, and I'm not just saying
well,
that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And it's, I'm an open book, and I think that just with a lot of things, if people weren't so freaked out to be open about shit, then there wouldn't be so much stigma attached to a lot of stuff that goes on.
Exactly.
So if you sweep everything under the rug, that doesn't help anybody at the end of the day.
And it's not going to help your mental health if you're just keeping secrets or
Yeah.
holding in this these dark memories that you can never talk about, and you never know who you're going to help or change the life of with what you're open about talking about. Because if you never talk about stuff, nobody's going to know that it's okay to go through these things. It's okay to have trials and tribulations, have highs and lows, like, and people really can't relate with anything if you're not going to talk about anything. If that makes
Exactly.
sense. Like if Juice World never, why do I sound like such a tool? But if Juice World never came out and was so genuine with everything he was going through in his music, then he would never be as big as he was
Absolutely.
and
And
is.
that's why he himself is attached to, the whole statement, legends never die. He's attached to the word legend because he went out there to a whole generation of kids his age that, people go through all this kind of fucked up shit younger and younger anymore. So having somebody your age come out and actually talk about it, I mean, that's huge. And he's one of the first people we had that was that young that did it.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously his talent got him like far as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he can freestyle his ass
He
off.
articulated it so well.
And the fact that he didn't lie or hide anything really helped, because he would just freestyle or make a song and it was like he was talking to you about these things and he was letting you in on his life to see the kind of stuff that he goes through, and you feel like less of an alien when you're hearing someone go through the same kind of stuff you are, or
Definitely.
dealing with the same kind of traumas. So yeah, I just definitely wanted to start by giving you props, because it may just sound like I'm saying this or whatever, but that's actually the first thing that I thought of when I knew that we were going to have you on, is just the fact that, yeah, you got balls. I don't know if I was in your situation, I don't know if I could do what you're doing. And so thank you, and thank you from the people that I hope that maybe some of these conversations could help and everything like that. You know.
Oh, thank you guys for having me on. I've been looking forward to this all week. Colin didn't tell me the list of the questions, of course, but he made sure, like, he was like, whatever you don't, like, is there anything you want me to make sure is not touched on at all? I was like, I really don't care. I mean, you know how I am. I'm pretty open with just about everything. So I was like, yeah, whatever they want to get into. And he kind of gave me a gist of what it'll probably, and I'm like, yeah, whatever, you know what I mean? Whatever
Hell yeah.
they want to ask, I'm all for it.
I also wanted to say, you're one of the only, I hope you don't mind me saying this, Colin, but you're one of the only girlfriends that he's had that it really felt like you actually gave me a chance to be like respected, and you talked to me like a human being, and just, you've always been nice and cool, and
Yeah.
and that's no shame on you or Colin or anything. I mean, yeah. So thank you for being so cool, and we appreciate that. But yeah, I guess we'll just go right into it, because I have a lot of questions surrounding this. And so I know you are, and we literally just touched on this, but if you're okay with talking about, maybe would it help if you, I think you know what I'm going to ask about.
I can feel you being kind of scared to say what you want to say.
I don't know how to. You listen to anyone who listens to the podcast knows I try to keep things silly, and I want to say this the right way. And
Oh, no,
like,
you're fine.
once we're into it, I feel like I'll be able to talk and ask my questions. But I have a lot of questions about.
I'm interested to
specific
see
subjects.
kind of what your questions are for me too, because I don't know how much you know.
I don't know a lot.
And that the other day, and I was like, I really questioned what Julian does know about me.
You'll hear in my questions how little I do know. I just know the like broad things. But I guess I really wanted to talk with you about your struggles with addiction in the past. Maybe that's the best way to go into it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I guess I do know that at one point you had fallen into an addiction with heroin.
Yeah.
And
I started doing heroin. I think the first time I did it, I was like 17 or something. And actually at the time, the guy that I was dating did it, but I didn't know that. And it certainly was not his. I know for sometimes with addiction, people always try to look for someone to blame. But I can wholeheartedly say it was not his fault that I started doing heroin, because even before I was with him, many people that I was related to, friends with, whatever, were already doing heroin before I ever even touched it. And he definitely didn't pressure me into doing it or anything like that. And before I was with him, I actually was already a druggie anyway.
So would you say that maybe in your life, drugs like that had been a little bit more normalized than maybe for me?
Definitely. It was, I mean, my dad was an addict as well. My sister is still in active addiction. She's a heroin addict too.
I'm sorry to hear.
And so drugs were it was just something I grew up around. So even before I ever used drugs in my life, it was something I was brought up into. I mean, it was definitely something that was just normal. And luckily, even at the worst, I mean, at the height of my addiction, like the worst it ever was, because thankfully, I got clean off of heroin in 2019. December 17th, 2019, yeah. And I haven't touched it since then, and I never fucking will because it was awful.
Round of applause.
Thank you.
No, but I mean, it kind of sounds silly, but no, seriously, like that's a hard, recovery is hard. And
I was really lucky because I was never an IV user. I'm really lucky that I never, the needle thing.
How did you use it?
I always snorted it.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the reasons why, like, I think that's one of the ways how I got addicted to it, because a lot of people don't really, as soon as people hear heroin, they immediately think needles. And that's not the case. People smoke it, people snort it, whatever. I never smoked it either. I always just snorted it. But it's kind of weird because you can use such an extreme drug in, like, not the most extreme way. And I guess I think at the time, that's how I thought to myself, like, okay, I'm not that bad.
Yeah.
Because I'm not. But then, like, at the worst of it, I was doing almost 2 grams of heroin cut with fentanyl every single day.
Did you know it was cut with fentanyl?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had also done fentanyl just by itself before. At this point, my tolerance was so high, it was insane.
I didn't even know until recently that fentanyl was a drug that you even could use by itself. Like I thought of heroin like you practically could touch it and die.
Well, the thing is I know for me, and granted, you got to think too, I'm 25 now, so this was 8 years ago. Yeah. At the time, I had already done, I dabbled in psychedelics a lot, and that's actually something I continued to dabble in all through my adult life. And psychedelics, I actually have a very open opinion about because I think they can be very helpful if used responsibly.
Because can't microdosing, sorry to cut you off or anything, but can't microdosing mushrooms really help with recovery? And
so many things, yeah. And one of the biggest, it's unfortunate because a drug that a lot of opioid addicts turn to is Suboxone. And don't get me wrong, I've seen a couple people be on Suboxone and function great, and, that's great, more power to them. I'll never fucking touch it, because...
Can you explain to people who don't know what Suboxone is?
Suboxone is like... Suboxone is an opioid antagonist, so if... okay, like when I got clean off heroin, so I was hospitalized during that period of time, and because I got fortunate enough that my boyfriend at the time, we lived together, and he literally just came home from work one day and found me passed out we were together, but we were separated, so in the house I had my own room, he had his own room. Yes. And but we had been broken up for a little while, but we still were like civil, and yeah, but so I had my own room and he had his own room. Well, he comes home from work and goes to knock on my door and didn't hear anything, so he got kind of worried.
Yeah.
Especially knowing like what I did every goddamn day. So he opened the door and just finds me passed out, like just unconscious. Takes me to the hospital, and they were just like, "What the fuck?" Because they thought I overdosed initially, and that actually wasn't the case, because at the time I had a problem with heroin and fentanyl, every day, just nonstop. And then I also had a problem with Xanax. So I had like multiple seizures and stuff. What I didn't know was something that can happen from doing heroin, whether you smoke it, snort it, like no matter what, it can cause you to have pneumonia. And so I guess I had pneumonia for quite a while and it went untreated because, of course, I was on drugs. I mean, it was so bad that I can't even tell you probably what I did every day for 3 months before that. I remember probably September, maybe a little bit into October, and then I remember waking up in the hospital in the middle of December.
Do you think you would be here right now if you didn't come home and find you?
No, they told me when I got there, they were like, you were done. I mean, that was gonna be it. Cause when I first came to, it was that I had pneumonia that went untreated and it turned into sepsis, which is a blood infection. And I guess sepsis is also a common thing among heroin users because when people use needles, it can cause a blood infection. So when I got into the hospital, I guess they thought, first they thought I OD'd, so they Narcaned me. That ended up not being the problem. And then they realized I have this blood infection that's like attacking my whole body.
Yeah.
And at first they were worried because they had to put IVs in me. And they were like,
They thought they wouldn't be able to get a vein.
they saw what was in my system, and they were like, are we going to be able to get a vein on her? And I mean, I'm Snow White. If I had fucking, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
They'd be able to
pop up
tell.
the track marks.
But they were like, no, we like got it. Super. So they were already confused by that. And then when it took like a good almost week for me to like mentally recover, if that makes sense, from that whole episode, because it was so much on
Practically
my body.
kind of in like a mild mental coma.
Yeah, I mean, just like you're there, but not really. And I think that's what actually helped me get clean during that, because I wasn't necessarily completely present to go through the withdrawal.
I was going to say, because I can't imagine how bad of an ass beating you take from withdrawals.
It
like
was,
that.
yeah. And it was still rough, but I think I got through the hardest part because I was just so out of it, like just being unconscious and shit the whole time. But they asked me, like, the first day that I really came to and was able to, speak to them while being present completely.
Yeah.
First, they asked me if I was trying to kill myself. And I was like, no.
Just trying to have a good time.
Well,
What the fuck?
yeah. And, I was also like I was like a 20-something-year-old kid. So I'm like, the fuck are these people asking me this for? Now I know it was protocol. I'm sure they see a bunch of crazy shit, especially at Mount Carmel East. So
Yeah.
they were like, so were you trying to kill yourself? I'm like, no, this is just what I did every day.
Yeah.
And then they also had to ask me a bunch of weird questions because they're running your blood. They see everything in your system. And they also asked me a bunch of questions to see if I was a human trafficking victim, because they were like, if you weren't trying to kill yourself and you're not a human trafficking victim, there's no reason somebody should have not only the kind of drugs you had in your system, but that amount of them.
So I want to ask, did you do any different kind of amount that day? I mean, maybe you don't remember, but
Honestly, I have no clue. And that's the scary thing too, is like I said, I was just living in such a blur, because it wasn't even just that I was doing, doing heroin cut with fentanyl is bad enough. However, at this point, I had been into heroin addiction for, a couple of years. So to me, waking up and doing heroin and fentanyl was a normal thing. But then I also had my addiction to Xanax going on at the same time. And so you're mixing the two, and it's dangerous.
yeah. So I also wanted to ask, so you kind of may have answered it when I said the thing about like maybe it'd have been more normalized in your life because of how many people you had around you that were involved in drugs like that. But just in my shoes, like I've always just heard the whole, like obviously people tell you not to do drugs, but then when they go into it and how like, okay, this drug is this drug is that, and heroin is like put in the same category as like crack and like meth and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But pretty much what I'm getting to is like they make it sound so bad and like that's like the last thing you would ever want to do. And they try and do that with all the drugs, but you can kind of tell like that's like those drugs in that
It's
category is like
classified as a hard drug. Yeah.
yeah, it's like no, like not to be a dick or anything, but it's almost like you'd have to be stupid to do that. But what I'm asking is like I know that that's also like you were going through a lot, I'm sure. And so I wanted to know where your head was at when you like picked it up for the first time. Like what did you justify it with?
I think it because at the time.
I hope I didn't sound like a dick.
Oh no, you're completely fine. You're good. I think at the time the way it happened, like I said, I was already a druggie, so that was nothing new. You know what I mean? I had already.
I'm sorry, but what? So before heroin, before fentanyl, are you referring to being addicted to Xanax at that time? Or?
Oh yeah, I was addicted to Xanax at that time. I did psychedelics pretty regularly. I also did other pills too. So it wasn't. But at the time, at that particular juncture, I mean, I was an addict. There's no way around that. But I didn't know it yet, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So, so I had never made a conscious effort to just quit doing all drugs. Because at the time that just wasn't even something that crossed my mind. I was so young and I didn't think anything of it. And, I sold pills at the time too. So, I basically lived on my own and, I basically lived on my own. And one of the ways I made,
no, I had it on last time, but okay.
One of the ways that I made money was, selling pills and, I definitely had a problem with Xanax already, but Percocet I wasn't that big into, and it's because I would do like half of one and I would puke.
Yeah.
And they made me itchy, and I really didn't like them, so I didn't really put that much thought into it when, the guy I was dating at the time, when he started doing heroin as well, he had already had a previous problem with it, and I wasn't aware of that.
So he had a problem with it, beat
got
it,
clean, and that's when we got together.
Back into it.
Yeah,
and
and I
didn't know
didn't.
any of this.
No, I was 17, and I think he was like 23, 24. And I had known him since I was like 13, 14. And like he went into the military, came back, and we started dating. And I was only a few months away from 18, but he was much older than me nonetheless. But he never disclosed to me that that was a problem that he had had. So when it came to him doing pills and stuff, I didn't think anything of it because I didn't know much about addiction to begin with, and I didn't know he had prior addiction issues. But it became more, I remember becoming more aware of it because at this point in time, my sister and her dude, they were doing heroin, and but they were straight to the needle, like that's that. And then the guy I was with started doing it, and I remember like I think the first time I did it, I didn't even really like it, but I
was
think
it offered to you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that's what's crazy though, is I look like thinking about it now, it is crazy to look back and think, why was that my train of thought? But at the time, I think the way I looked at it was like, I don't have a problem with Percocet, and you know what I mean? I can't even do a whole Percocet by myself.
Yeah.
So, I'm just snorting it. I'll never shoot anything. It's just an opiate, just like Percocet is, whatever.
So you looked at them as like one and the same, and you were just
I did, and
this.
I see why people do, but it is different. And at the time, I didn't, like I said, I tried it, and I really didn't like it that much. And
the heroin you're talking
yeah.
about now? Okay.
And then it just became, it was much more accessible, and it's much more affordable, of course. And it wasn't until a few months later, I turned 18, I started working, and I moved into an apartment with my best friend at the time and her mom. And I remember, like, I was doing it almost every day at this point, but still didn't realize I had a problem.
Yeah.
And then, like, I remember waking up one day and I just felt like I was going to die. And I wasn't sure if I had a cold or if something, because it felt worse. And it also, like, something just felt, like, not okay within me, if that makes sense, because it fucks with you mentally, too. And so I called my dealer and I was like, hey, I don't know, like, what's wrong with me, but, like, just get over here as soon as you can. Because, you know, in my mind, I thought, okay, well, I feel like death. I'll make a doctor's appointment sometime this week, but, you know, I guess I'll get high because at least it might help me sleep. Well, he gets there, like, delivers my stuff to me. I go into the bathroom because I didn't disclose to the people I lived with that I was doing heroin, obviously.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a very social user either. I was never a social drug user.
You weren't
really.
sharing.
Well, it's not even just that. I just didn't like being around other drug addicts because they're, like, not to sound fucked up, but, you know, drug addicts are sketchy fucking people. And even though I was
known too many.
Yeah, like, even though I was an addict, there's just shit that I wasn't about, you know, so, but he got there and dropped it off to me. I took it in the bathroom. I did it. And literally, like, as soon as I did it, I felt fine. And that's when, like, I remember looking in the mirror and being like, fuck.
Yeah.
Because now I'm physically dependent on this.
Yeah. So, if you didn't like it in the beginning, like, there must have been something that made you kind of, like, stick with it, I guess, and start doing it every day. So, what would you say? This may sound, I don't want to be like, I don't know, make it sound attractive to anyone, but, like, what was the beneficial parts of it to you? Like, what was the heroin high, like, good?
I think at the time, I think the only beneficial part to it, because, I mean, as straight-minded people, like, now I can look at it and be like, why the fuck did I think that way? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But at the time, for, I guess, you know, as a normal-minded person, of course, you're like, there is no beneficial part to it. Obviously, because there's just not. But I think that I was at a weird point in my life where even before I ever tried it, you know, I had very close family members that were on it. I had, you know, very close family members that also kind of, you know, screwed up majorly with me personally due to being on it. My best friend that I had since I was 4 that I actually met Colin through, unfortunately, she passed away a couple of years ago, but
I'm sorry to hear that.
she was my age. She was only 6 months older than me, and she was on it before I ever touched it. And so I guess in a way it sounds fucked because it is, but I think that kind of left me with a morbid curiosity for it. And because you do wonder, especially because, you know, I was a kid at the time, you do wonder, like, what was so good about this that this made so many people that I loved just destroy everything?
I mean, that's what, like, from the outside looking in, people are like, I mean, it'll almost be made as a joke, but it's like, heroin is the best feeling ever.
And it's not. And that, I think for me, it was more about, because that's what's weird is even though, you know, I'm an addict. So, of course, there's certain things that I do to work on myself and to keep myself straight. But when I got sober from heroin, I never wanted to turn back to it because it scared the hell out of me. Like, I think something that I will always struggle with and that I have to work on more is just my want to escape, period. But I don't feel that I want to escape by using heroin. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah.
'Cause once I think it got more to be, especially because I wasn't even that big of a fan of opiates when I first started doing it. I got hooked on it at such a young age. And then by the time I was, 18, 19, and I'd been doing it for a while, I hated it. I mean, having an addiction is a complete chore. And it's, I made my own money. I was working. I had my own apartment, but I just was not happy. And that's what it boiled down to. And when I finally beat it, I was like, I finally got through what would probably be no matter what I do past this point, that's probably going to be the worst withdrawal I could ever physically and mentally feel in my life.
Yeah.
And I finally fucking like got through that. So I can never I never want to get to a point where I ever feel like that again.
Yeah, you don't want to make yourself need something that you don't need at that time, or drag yourself back into a
Yes.
place that you hated. And I think another thing I wanted to kind of bring up was, I feel like people hear about someone doing heroin and they just kind of assume you can't go about like a somewhat normal life like that.
People-
Like people think, oh, you do heroin, now you're homeless, or you're
That's
just
what's crazy
in
too is
bed all
people
day.
think that, like how I was saying earlier, people hear heroin and they automatically think, you're on the needle, and that's not the case for a lot of people. I mean, don't get me wrong. A lot of the times, yes, people will start by snorting it or smoking it and then go to the needle. Sometimes people do start off with the needle, but to my understanding, people work their way up to that.
Yeah.
I just happened to never get there, and I'm really, really thankful for that. And as many times as I'd seen other people struggle with it, and then, just about every time they turn to the needle, I was too scared to ever get to that point, and I'm so fucking glad for that. And it just didn't sound appealing to begin with.
Yeah.
And people also assume that normal everyday people can't have an issue with this, and that's not the case. I mean, working at a rehab, I saw so many people come in that you would never think twice about. Don't get me wrong. Of course, there are people that come in that you're like,
Yeah, this is
we know.
obviously you're here or something.
But I mean, even when I was in treatment myself, a few times, people told me by talking, just by seeing you and then by talking to you, you're not somebody I would assume would be here.
Yeah. I feel like, yeah, so pretty much you could be addicted to heroin while functioning at a job and like.
Yeah, you can be a functioning addict, and that's what's crazy too is I think that's why it went on so long for me, is because not only did I start so young, but I also was a functioning addict, and in a way that can almost be worse because I was working 6 to 7 days a week. Plus I sold drugs on the side too, so I made money just middlemaning, and I supported myself, but I also didn't have anything to show for it, and I didn't. There's no way, even though now, I'm 25, I have my own car insurance, legal licensing, all of that. I have my own 1-bedroom apartment in Polaris, which is the first place I've ever lived in that's not in the hood. And my quality of life has just completely shifted. I couldn't have done that, 5-6 years ago.
Yeah.
I had my own place and stuff, but it was not in a good area, and it was just teeny and bare minimum.
I'm sure it's good to be finding happiness from accomplishing things like that, which is an accomplishment, than trying to get synthetic happiness from drugs. And so I'm sure people, not to be on a soapbox preaching or something, but people need to understand that not only can normal people get into these situations and be addicted to drugs like that, it's not what you think, it's not just homeless people or people who are crazy, but also they need to understand that if you do get into these situations, there is a way to get through them, and there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Life isn't just going to be miserable from being sober,
There's so many, and that's the thing too is I know the first time that when I got sober, and the first time it was like I said, when I was hospitalized and all of that, and when that happened, I completely white knuckled it. I mean, I had no education on addiction, nobody in my family and nobody close to me, I've never seen somebody get sober and be successful doing it. Like, I've never seen somebody get sober and stay that way, so on and so forth.
All you had seen is failure.
Yeah, I had heard of like NA programs, but I never seen somebody do it and do it right or like really try at it. And so I just kind of was just doing it, and like it worked for a while, and then I slipped up. And when I had slipped up, it really like it freaked me out. And even though when I slipped up, I just slipped up by doing pills, I never turned back to heroin, thank God.
So you've never relapsed on
No.
heroin? Okay.
I haven't. Nope. Heroin's been since December 17th of 2019, and then when I got clean the second time, I was doing oxys and Xanax. And when that went on was when I was on probation and went to jail and stuff. But they actually sent me to treatment. I spent 2 weeks in jail, and then I got court ordered to 3 months of treatment. And so residential, I went to rehab, and I didn't have a choice. I went to court. They arrested me in the courtroom. They cuffed me. They took me to fucking Fairfield County, and they court ordered me to treatment. So I had to detox in solitary confinement, and
Can't even imagine.
oh, it sucked. And so I detoxed in solitary confinement for a couple weeks, and then they had somebody down from the Phoenix Center in Ironton drive to Fairfield County Jail and pick me up, and took me 2.5 hours away to Ironton, Ohio for 3 months of residential treatment.
Was that somebody pulling for you to try and like do the right thing and help, or did
Actually,
you been asking, or was
No,
that in
it
the
was
paperwork?
actually, it was in the pay. Well, what it is like I said, I got court ordered to treatment. So
Okay.
my maximum jail sentence they could have sentenced me to was like 52 or 53 days or something. And that was because like my charge was 1M4 called criminal mischief. And it was because the guy I was dating at the time was fucking awful to me. And we had gotten into so many fights, and he would get physical with me. So the neighbors would call the cops. And he had already gotten multiple charges from putting his hands on me in public. And at this point, Fairfield County Sheriff knows us. They've been out to the house millions of times. Finally, the night after Christmas Day, the neighbors called the cops, and the sheriff got there. And because it was a domestic situation, they have to send a male cop and a female cop.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Is that only in Ohio, or is that everywhere?
I think it's everywhere, but I know at the very least it's an Ohio
Okay.
thing. But yeah, so they send a male cop and a female cop, and at this point they'd been out to the house so many times, and they saw how like just fucked like my first mugshot. I have 2 black eyes. I have handprint bruises around my neck. Like you can't recognize me. And finally they said, if we get called out here again, we're going to arrest both of you. Because we can't keep...
Why did you get arrested?
Well, that was the thing is after they came out so many times, they said, you are not learning anything from this. Nothing's getting better. And the female officer also pulled me aside, and she was usually the one to talk to me and calm me down each time. And she was like, you are not learning anything from this, and I don't think you understand how bad this is. Like, I don't think you understand how dangerous this is.
Was she trying to tell you, like, you need to get out of this relationship, like,
Yeah,
immediately?
definitely. And,
because that's super easy when you're living with someone.
right. And
I'm being sarcastic, I hope you know.
yeah, I know. But at that point, it was, like you said, it's not easy. It's, I was terrified of him. And I also didn't, when you're with somebody like that and things get that bad, your self-worth is nothing. So you're not only too scared to leave, you also don't feel like you're worth anything to, have a better quality of life. So,
or even find someone else, like, I'm sure.
Right. Well, the last thing, it was so overbearing at that point in time. The last thing I wanted to do was find someone
Yeah,
else.
no, I get it.
At that point in time, I was just thankful, like, once, because, like, that night that they were out there and they said, we're going to take you both next time, they had already seen so many things happen at this house. They had already been called out there a million times. They already saw him go to jail a couple times for putting his hands on me. And they knew each time that I was not the person that called the cops. And then when Fairfield County assigned me, they assign you a victim's advocate if you're a victim of abuse. And they ask you, do you want to press charges? And each time I said no. And so she realized that nothing was changing and it was dangerous. And she said, next time we'll take you both. And they did. And so when they did, when they took both of us the next time around, we were fighting, neighbors called the cops, the whole thing, took both of us. I went to jail for like 2 or 3 days, and it was only because I went in on a weekend, so I had to wait till Monday morning for court. But I really don't think they were trying to throw the book at me. I think they were trying to help, but I was also not giving them an option. Yeah. So, thankfully, that did give me some clarity, because even though I still had, I was still using pills at this point, even in that kind of haze, I got out of jail before him because I didn't have priors and he did. And while he was in jail, I immediately got released from jail, packed up all my shit, and moved in with 2 friends of mine while he was still in jail.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
And so, okay, so yeah, when you went to jail that time, you had already quit heroin, right?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Ironically, I actually never got in trouble with the law other than this.
Oh, wow.
And
did they?
Oh, well, like what I just told you about being in there for like 2 or 3 days, that was what I initially went to jail for, the criminal mischief charge. They put me on probation because of that charge. And so I was on misdemeanor probation, but it was still reporting probation. They drug tested me once a week, and I think it was because it was very clear I had a drug problem.
I was going to say, I'm sure they had to have noticed. Like, yeah. Were you going through withdrawals in your weekend there?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, luckily no. But so I also didn't know, it got worse too, because I also didn't know how to like cope with all the fucked up shit that he had done to me. Because even though like for somebody who, I think at the time I was 24, but for somebody, being 23, 24, I had already been through a lot and seen a lot in my lifetime. However, the things that he put me through, I was fortunate enough that up to that point, I had never experienced that before. So I didn't know how to cope with any of that had happened to me.
Because that's a whole new kind of trauma. Like,
yeah. So then left to my own devices, of course, my addiction just got worse. And so I'm still on probation for that misdemeanor that I got with him. And I kept giving them dirty tests. I never gave them a clean one. And finally, I had court for, revoking my probation. And when I went into court for that probation violation, that was when, they said, this girl needs help. She needs to go to rehab, and that's what it is. And I think they also cut pity on me and saw that, like, I was not someone who had a criminal past. And, which is
have been there.
Yeah, which is nothing against people who do, but just I think they noticed, like, they knew I came out of a fucked up situation because they saw how he was with me. And upon seeing that, I think they were like, she clearly has a drug problem. We saw that her, what her significant other at the time was putting her through.
Yeah.
Something's wrong. So luckily, even though at the time I didn't feel very lucky, luckily they sent me to treatment. And when you get court ordered to treatment, you don't have a choice. So the facility I went to wasn't a lockdown facility because I wasn't a felon. So I think they take that into consideration because they do have lockdown facilities. But
I'm sorry, but what, for me and people listening, what is a lockdown facility? Like, what's the difference?
So, like, okay, so like my charge was out of Fairfield County, right? So they have certain different counties will have different like rehabs they'll send you to, right? So like in Columbus, like if you got in trouble in like Franklin County, they'd probably court order you to Maryhaven, right? Well, because my charge was out of Fairfield, the two like rehab places that Fairfield County deals with, the one I went to is called the Phoenix Center, which is not a lockdown facility. And then the other one is a lockdown facility, and it's called the STAR program. Now, the STAR program being a lockdown facility, it's technically a level 1 prison, even though it's not prison, it's rehabilitation, but it's still technically considered a level 1 prison.
So you
can't leave. Yeah, like you can't leave. You can't wear your own clothes there. You wear a uniform. Like, even though I'm sure it probably is better than being in prison, it's still not like just, if you were not court ordered and tried to go to a rehab somewhere.
Yeah,
like you're not escaping, and if you do, then you catch an escape charge.
I guess I was a little confused because the one you went to wasn't a lockdown facility.
Yeah,
but you were court ordered there, so it's not like you could have left.
So you can, because that's the thing, because it wasn't a lockdown facility, so like there's no barbed wire on a fence outside or anything like that. But yeah, so if you walk out the door, like I could have walked out at any point in time, and they tell you when you get there, like, look, if you don't want help, we'll give your bed to someone who does. And I saw girls that had years over their head. Like if they did not complete that program, they were going not even to jail, to prison.
And then they whistled out the door.
They still walked right on out the door. But
my plug's outside.
Yeah, no, seriously, like that's how far they would take it. But yeah, because it wasn't a lockdown facility, so there's nothing that's actually keeping you there, I guess. But if I were to have left, I would have gotten a warrant.
Okay.
And I'm sure I probably could have ran from that for a while because I'm not even from Fairfield County, but I was like...
Smart.
Well, I went into it and I was like, I'm the youngest one here and I don't have any felonies. I'm the only one that's court ordered here that's not a felon. I'm the only one here that has no kids. I have a job. What the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
And that was the point where I realized, like, oh my gosh, I completely have somehow gotten lucky in so many different ways that I'm not even sure, I'm not a religious person to any extent, but that's why I do fully believe that like something has my interest there.
If anything, karma or something.
If anything.
So, wow, that's really so like, could you have gotten like dropped off like food? Just this is kind of a random question, but since it's not such a lockdown and like
no, it's so you got to wear your own clothes, which was cool.
Okay.
When I went there, because I came straight from jail, I didn't have any of my stuff with me. I wasn't planning on going to jail that day.
Yeah.
My dumbass, I was like, well, I'll just go into court and explain myself, and I'm sure why the fuck would I go to jail? And, well, my lawyer, when I finally got to talk to my lawyer after being in jail for like a week, I called him and I'm like, Don, what the fuck? And he was a public defender, but he actually did a good job because they really could have just given me jail time. And I was lucky enough that they saw something in me to get me help.
But you're like, Don, you were supposed to hook me up.
That's
right?
what because I was pissed. And I was like, Don, what the fuck? And he's like, Miss Martin, you went into court high with a Slayer t-shirt on. What do you want me to do?
I can't change the wardrobe. Scheuneman wasn't out yet.
It wasn't.
It wasn't out.
But I really did give them no choice. And I got so lucky that, I got so lucky that they, gave me a chance to go to treatment. Because even though oddly enough, I'm pretty confident in the fact that, like, I don't think I would have gone back to heroin, no. But it wasn't just that. At the end of the day, I was still doing, I was still putting shit in my body I 110% should not have been. But my mental state at that time was fucked. I
Yeah.
mean, it was awful. And if it wasn't for getting that kind of wake up call, I mean, I'm not even sure. I don't know that I would have ever come out of such a deep state like that.
So did rehab, would you say it gave you good tools for like being sober and just how to get through your, like get out of that mental state? Or like, was it helpful to you for more than just having a place to like kind of keep
Yeah,
you there while you get
and
clean and
that's-
everything?
Yeah, like that's what I think people, I'm sure people have different views on it and stuff, but so anybody can go to like a detox unit, which is basically where, like how I was telling you, like when I did heroin and I finally got off of it, it just felt like such a relief because you just feel so much better physically and mentally. Yeah. And that's when I was like, oh my gosh, I was just trapping myself worse and worse in this. And like, I was fortunate enough that getting off of heroin, I didn't go back, even though I didn't do a program that time.
Because it's like 90% of people or something?
It's like a 97% relapse rate.
Yeah, I watch Euphoria. I know the stats.
Yeah. But it like, but it, people can go to like a detox unit where that's literally their only job. Like their only job is to get somebody through detox to where they're stable. Now this isn't part of their mental state. This is just like, we know we got all the drugs out of their system and they're stable. And if someone decides to go to a program after that, that's fine. And if they don't, that's on them. But you need to get somebody, like I needed to learn. For me, it wasn't even so much just the drugs. I needed to learn how to just exist. I mean, that's the only way I know how to explain it, because you can send somebody to detox 15 times over, but if you don't show them how to like live and function without compulsively using drugs, then they're gonna fail every single time.
Yeah. Wow. So did that come out of your pocket? Or did the court, did you
rehab?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, so that's also a
nope.
good part of it, is because some people fight to get a bed in rehab and save, like it's expensive.
And that's what they actually, like when the program that I was court ordered to was a 90-day program. So that it was 3 months. And so typically like it's a 90-day program, but they can also keep you up to like 120 days. And then they also have like if someone needs it, they have like a transitional program, which is like a halfway house kind of deal.
Have you ever been, I mean, have you only been to that rehab, or did you go back on your own at any point?
The only residential treatment I did was them. I've been to like, you know what net care is?
No.
Net care, it's like, it's not just a drug thing. I mean, it can be, but it's also like just a mental health thing altogether.
Okay.
But that's Phoenix was the only like rehab that I've been to.
So you got treatment, but like that was the only rehab. Okay, understood. I was just curious because would you say that the rehab you went to, Phoenix, right?
Yeah.
Was it a good rehab? Like, do you think there were skilled people and?
I think that they had some really skilled employees there. However, after working in treatment myself,
because you turned around and started helping people.
For every 10 rehabs that there are, 8 or 9 of them are bad.
Yeah. And
I've seen things that like these places do, and it's fucked.
Not to like make it sound like it's this simple, but it almost kind of reminds me of like how a teacher is. Like you can have one teacher that likes what they do, or at least cares about teaching people and wants to be there and help their students, but then another teacher is like, I fucking hate this job, I don't get paid enough, and they just do the bare minimum and toss a packet at you.
Yeah, and it's exactly, that's what's funny too, is because rehab, it actually is like being like in school again. That's like, I was homeschooled, so I never had like a high school experience, but
sometimes I actually kind of miss school.
That's what rehab was like. It's crazy too, because like having to be around and like live and function with like 15 to 20 women all in one house, and like
all synced up and shit.
Yeah, and well, it's nuts too, because I hate to say it, but I think what helped me is, like I said, realizing like I'm the only one here that is not a felon, has no kids, but like not saying that anybody doesn't have a future, because people most certainly, no matter how bad it is, people can turn shit around, you know?
Yeah.
But I just happened to realize like how fortunate I really was that I really like just needed to work on myself. Like how fortunate I was. Like I don't have to get out of here and worry like, oh my gosh, I also have 3 kids and I don't know where they're going to go. Or, you know, I'm very lucky that, you know, I was able to just focus on myself.
It's almost like you didn't have to do a complete U-turn. You had to go left or right.
Pretty much.
So
I got really, really like lucky in that sense. And I definitely see now that like at 25 years old, I could have fucked my life up so badly. And how I mean, I was always smart. There were certain things that, like I said, I didn't really like being around other addicts.
yeah, because you could have like a bunch of like best friends that were like, no,
Yeah.
you got to start doing heroin again.
And
with
I've
me.
always been like, I've always been kind of an introverted person, and I don't really, I don't really want to surround myself with people, and I've always kind of been that way. And I think a lot of that does stem from like being an ECOT kid, because I never had to go to school and be around people I didn't want to be around and, you know, socialize. But there was just some things that no matter how far into addiction I was not okay with.
Yeah.
And going and being in treatment with women, you know, some women that I was not only in, you know, a client with in treatment, and then some women that I've been the RA at the rehab working and they're the client. I've seen so many people do like complete 180s from odds that are like 110% against them. Like I've seen people come in that were victims of human trafficking, seen people come in. I had one client one time that she was like 37, 38 years old, never even had a bank account in her life. Yeah. And she like got out of prison and was living at a halfway house and relapsed or screwed up somehow. And then she signed herself into treatment. And like it was the first time that she did it like on her own accord. And she really like changed everything around. It was insane to see.
See, like it's stories like yours and like that I think is another like a whole nother good part about having you on here, other than the fact that we love to talk to Alisha every chance we get.
Of course. Yeah.
But yeah, like the people need to hear those stories of people being so down in the dumps or such like in a really bad place. But yeah, there's always hope. You can always get yourself out of that. You just have to put your mind to it.
That's what I think was like.
Not to make it sound easy.
Well, yeah, it's not easy, but damn it, it is worth it. Because I
Put
think
your mind to it. You'll do it.
Yeah, like I think that's one of the issues that I think had like when I was younger, I think if I had have maybe like been a little bit more exposed to seeing people go through treatment and like complete it successfully and go through it, I think I would have been like a little more open to that sooner than, you know, getting court ordered to it.
Yeah.
And when I finally did, I was just like, why did I not try this 5 years ago?
And maybe you would have seeked it sooner, maybe, or
I think so, because it, you know, unfortunately, it is hard to get beds in anywhere, especially in a, you know, busy place like Columbus, where like it's such a problem that's so extreme.
My
But
dad was on here earlier talking about how bad it's been and how much worse it's gotten. It's like the new crack epidemic.
yes, that's one thing I've never tried was crack.
I was gonna get. Okay, we had a little bit of a pause. It's gonna be an edit break, but just because of the fact I forgot exactly what I was just saying, I have to acknowledge it. But I did look down at these notes I have for things I wanted to ask you and things Colin wanted to ask you, and there was like these 5 bullet points, but then I didn't see this last one, and I just have to. Cow onesie? He just says
It wasn't
cow onesie.
it wasn't a cow onesie.
Give us the backstory of this. And
Like how I kind of already did, not somewhat. How I was telling you me going into treatment, it all stemmed from being arrested, right?
Yeah.
And like that's the only time the initial getting arrested where I spent only a couple days in jail, that's the charge that caused it. And then I got rearrested and sent to treatment for violating probation for that charge. Well, the initial charge, when I first got arrested ever, never been arrested before in my life, it's like the day after Christmas, and I know for a fact that it was at least probably like -2 outside in my defense. Well, when we started, the guy I was dating that I fought with all the time, we were inside when we started fighting.
Tell me you guys were duking it out while you were in a cow onesie.
Well, yeah. And like I had went outside, like he had this thing where when I would try to run outside, he would like lock me in the garage.
That's a fun thing.
Yeah. But before I went outside, I knew I'm like, okay, if I am able to run out, I don't want to throw my coat on because then he's gonna I was gonna sneak out was my
Chair got caught under the desk, my man.
I was gonna sneak out of the house was my plan, but I'm like, I know if I throw my coat on, at the very least, he's gonna think I'm like going outside to smoke, and he's gonna follow me. So I'm like, I have my like regular clothes on, and I think my mom might have gotten it for me actually, or I don't know, maybe I bought it. But it was a fluffy, it wasn't a cow onesie. It was like just a fluffy onesie that had like polar bears all over it.
I'm sorry, please don't hate me. Did you ever do heroin in the cow onesie?
No, this was after I had been clean off heroin already.
Oh, okay, so
Yeah.
the cow onesie was
When I went to rehab, like I had relapsed on pills. I didn't go to rehab for heroin actually. But I'm sure I got high in the cow onesie for sure, but
all
not
right.
heroin. But yeah, so I'm like, I'll throw the fluffy like Christmas onesie I have on, and maybe he'll just think I'm gonna walk around the house in it, even though like we're fighting. Maybe he won't realize I'm gonna go outside. Well, he did, and the neighbors called the cops, and so I get arrested in a fucking cow onesie, and then when I get released from jail a couple days later, like, because I had to put on the whole like jumpsuit get up, and when they release you. They have your clothes like all in this like plastic shrink wrap stuff.
Yeah.
And they cut them out to, get them out for you. And it's just that. And I was like,
Here are your possessions.
Yeah, like I'm looking at the CEO like, damn, y'all don't have like a sweatsuit I can wear or something? And he looks at me and he's like, no.
You got yourself
man.
into this.
Yeah, pretty much.
Was it the classic black and white, or was it brown and white speckles? Like what was the
onesie?
colorway? Yeah.
It was like blue and white.
Oh.
Yeah, and then it had
space cow.
Yeah, it wasn't a cow.
She said it was
a
polar.
polar bear one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
and it
note
had-
says cow onesie.
It had
okay.
it had a little hood on it that had fluff all over it. I
So
burned that fucking thing after.
too many dark
Bad
memories
luck.
attached to it. Fuck. Yeah, it's funny we're talking about what we were wearing when we got arrested, because when I most recently got arrested, I talked a little bit about it on, I think, episode 3. Or maybe episode 1. I don't know. I'm wearing exactly what I went to jail in that day. But
That's power right there.
yeah,
It's
fuck
crazy now because it's funny because I look back on it now, like now that I'm sober, I'm like, could you think of how like fucked this scenario probably looked? Like the Fairfield County sheriffs roll up and they just see 2 people duking it the fuck out, and one of them's in a polar bear onesie. And I go in, like, when they took me in to take my mugshot and shit, I wish they let me keep that on for my mugshot. That would have been sick. Yeah, I had to change it for it, unfortunately. But, like, when they first took me
like,
into
this is gonna be
jail,
too funny.
yeah, like, when they first took me into jail, they were probably like, who the fuck is this girl rolling in here with a polar bear onesie and bruises all over her face? Like, that had to look so bizarre.
I keep wanting to make jokes about it being a cow onesie. Like, I was gonna say, you were like those fucking Chick-fil-A promotions where it's like more chicken or whatever.
Eat more chicken.
You're like,
Just got real passionate about it.
yeah. But fuck. What was I gonna say? Okay, we'll cut that out. So yeah, fucking cow onesie, and then another one I have down here is MS-13.
My sister ran around with a bunch of people in MS-13. Her when she was 17.
Is that like a biker gang?
No, it's a Hispanic gang.
Oh shit.
She actually my sister's boyfriend got shot and killed in front of her when she was 17.
By those motherfuckers or their ops?
I have no clue.
Damn.
The case is still cold. She pointed the guys out of a lineup, and I assume they're not MS-13 because I don't think they would have like fucked with him if they were.
Yeah.
But she picked him out of a lineup, but they didn't do anything about it.
That's terrible. Wait,
Yeah.
what the fuck? Why wouldn't they do anything about it?
I have no clue.
Because the justice system is so
It is. Well,
unflawed.
plus, like, the kid that got shot and killed, he was illegal, and his whole family was as well. So I'm sure that probably, unfortunately, I'm sure that had a part in it as well. So who knows?
Damn. Damn. All right. Let's go. Let's bounce back. You got a marathon gas station story, and I got a marathon gas station story, but mine's probably not as good.
I'm so curious.
You don't know? Do you know which one he's referring to?
The marathon gas station?
Yeah.
For me, yes.
Yeah.
For you, no.
No. Yeah. No. What's going on over there? You guys kissing?
Of course.
That's the most we've heard you say this whole time, Marquise. He's been baked all day.
Yeah, I know, dude. You just been
Baked
smoking
potato, motherfucker.
dope. A baked potato. You got
You
bacon
got the
and cheddar
cheese,
on
the
you?
sour cream, and the bacon bits, or
Oh.
what?
Also, I feel like we should just add in there too, recovery from addiction is something that looks different for everybody. And I've met some people that they're sober and they stay away from weed and whatever, and that's what helps then. And then I've also met some people that are in long-term recovery and they smoke weed and they have their medical card and it's very helpful for them
Cali sober.
medicinally.
Yeah.
Yeah. So just throwing that out there, sometimes that is something that, in my opinion, and very many others, could help people from something as dangerous as relapse, is being able to use marijuana medicinally, and it's helpful to them.
Yeah, because I mean, obviously it varies from person to person, but I feel like not everybody is just gonna slip down a huge slope if they smoke a blunt when they're
Yeah.
stressed or something.
No.
Like,
People
good for
have
you.
their different opinions on it, and unfortunately, especially, because I worked in a rehab and I saw it myself, there is stigma behind it. But I've seen people that, even a good friend of mine, she's one of the strongest women I've ever met, and she had a really bad drug problem and was dealt like a really shitty hand in life for a while, and she turned her whole entire life around by herself and did all of it by herself, just her and her taking care of her kids. And she actually, we're gonna call her Allison.
okay,
Allison got her medical card even though she had like such a bad drug problem and was a human trafficking survivor and all this shit, and that really helped her.
yeah, I don't know. I might have to bleep this out too, but I did a little photo shoot for Allison, and when we were doing that, we got to talk about some of the things that she's had to go through, and I'd honestly love to have her on here at some point as well, because some of the things she was telling me is just pure insanity. Like,
Yeah.
not just the craziness of what her life must have felt like at that time.
I'll definitely talk to her about it. I think that's why her and I like bonded so quickly when I started working with her, because I was like, she's who trained me, and she made me feel so comfortable. And I was also like, I fuck with you.
Yeah, because
I definitely fuck with you.
once again, you guys both like got out, recovered, and are like on and going through recovery, and you guys both made the decision to turn around and start helping people do the same thing. And
even
I think
if,
that's so cool.
Yeah, and if just recovery or anything of the sort is something that you or anyone you know is like interested in talking about or just curious about, even, she is probably the best person to like, because like I've seen a lot of shit and done a lot of shit. No, that does not hold a candle to what this woman has like turned her life around from. It's crazy.
Yeah, some of the things she was telling me in the first 20 minutes of knowing her.
Oh yeah, she ain't shy at all.
Yeah, no. So that's why I feel like she'd probably be pretty open to hopping on a podcast and talking about it. And then,
But she probably has to be. I'll ask her, but she probably does have to be careful because of her job too.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah. So what's the marathon gas station story? I gotta know.
I got robbed at a marathon gas station.
Oh, what the hell? I did too.
Do you know where Eastland Mall is? Not Easton, Eastland.
It sounds familiar, but no, not really.
Okay, well, I lived by Eastland Mall, which I lived near Whitehall. It was considered Columbus, but
I was just down there last night.
it was actually the same place where I lived when I was like super young when I first got clean off of heroin.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't have a car on my license yet, and there was a Marathon gas station down the street, and I needed cigarettes, and I was the only person home, and I was like, I'm gonna walk to the Marathon gas station and get cigarettes, and it's like 2 p.m. in the middle of like June or something, so it was nice out, and it's daylight out, like 1 or 2 p.m. So I walk up to the Marathon gas station, and I go to walk out, and sure as fuck getting robbed in the parking lot of Marathon gas station. Like, as soon as I walked out, I got pistol whipped, and I've never, like...
Jeez.
Yeah, and, like...
Nothing was said before that?
I didn't know.
Wow.
And that's what... Yeah, like, it was as soon as I, like, came out of the fucking door of the gas station, and they weren't trying to, like, do it on the side of the building or take me
was just
outside.
No waiting
the
at
GTA.
all.
Yeah,
Right
and...
walk out.
They told me just give them everything I have, and luckily at the time I didn't really wear jewelry yet.
Yeah.
So I didn't have anything of value to just pull off my wrist or something. The only thing I had on me was those little Coach wallets that's like they call it a wristlet.
Yeah.
Yeah. It has like the little strap that goes on your wrist, and it's like a little like almost like a change purse.
Yeah.
And that's what I kept like my money and my cards in. I had that, and they wanted everything in it. And I'm like, I've got $8. And, like, I was a stripper at the time, so I have $8 in ones. Like, here, fucking take it.
Yeah. Congratulations.
Yeah.
And then I don't know, I don't know if they saw that the wallet said Coach on it or not, but that was a real Coach wallet, and that was actually the first Coach wallet like I ever had, and I was super like stoked on it too because I actually like got to go into a Coach store and get it. But they fucking took it, and then the Arab guys came out of the guys came out of the marathon.
I mean, they just were Arab.
And they helped, so that was pretty cool of them.
Did they like chase him off? Or
They
whatever?
did, they
But
did.
without stopping the Coach wallet from being.
Well, actually, they came out of the marathon with a gun drawn themselves.
I just can't believe they just pistol whipped you and then took the shit and then. That's crazy. So did you like walk up to the people who were working at the gas station and be like, "So you just saw that? I just got robbed.
No,
like,
they
can I just
saw
get
it.
my fucking cigarettes?"
Yeah, no, I had already went in and bought cigarettes.
Oh,
It was when
okay.
I walked out of the building, and they actually saw, like, I don't know if they were, I'd like to think they didn't watch the whole thing go down and wait to come out.
Look at this bitch.
I would hope not, yeah. But,
Tell
well,
them
I
just
guess
walk.
that gas station, like that marathon, had been getting harassed by these people for quite a while. But, yeah, the store owners, they were not messing around.
Did they
came
take
out
your
to help.
cigarettes?
No, they didn't take my cigarettes.
The people who robbed you. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they didn't take my
Okay. So I don't know why I was so hung up on the fact of like if
I
they
don't
would have
think
taken
so.
mine.
I don't really. Now that I think about it, I'm not really sure because there was just a lot going on. It
Yeah.
scared, you know what I mean? It scared the fuck out of me. So I just remember like, it's
Remember
crazy because when things like when shit hits the fan like that, the way you remember it comes out weird. If that
Oh,
makes
yeah,
sense.
no,
because
your
it's
memory
like it
gets
happened
blurred.
so fast.
And you don't want to distort it. So and usually memories do get distorted. It was hard for me to remember exactly what the guy said to me when he robbed me. Like
Yeah.
I talked about it in one of the episodes, and it was pretty crazy because he had a gun up to my neck. So
Mm-hmm.
he didn't pistol whip me though. But what were you gonna say, Marquise? You were about to actually talk.
Oh, was I?
Fuck.
His voice is so soothing.
Yeah, he needs to do a little
ASMR with
ASMR,
Marquise.
a mini pod of just him
AS
whispering. ASMQ. But this was, I really love how this episode went, and I definitely want to do a part 2. And I know I say that for quite a few guests, I believe, but it's honestly just because they've just done great. So I'm not blowing smoke. I would love to have you on again because we have plenty more stories we could go down, and
Oh, yeah,
I can tell you some
anytime,
of
man.
mine. And I want you to interview me now.
Oh yeah,
We
I
could-
would love to be the interviewer at some point.
That would be fun.
I will definitely volunteer for that. And if I'm probably, unfortunately, like when this episode goes up, this is one that I cannot advertise on my Facebook page. I can advertise it
that's
on my
totally
Instagram or
understandable.
Snapchat, but I can't do it on Facebook. However, there is a couple. Like, do you tag people? Like, do you?
With a few of them, we've tagged people. I mean, like with my dad, we didn't because he really
Yeah.
doesn't have much.
Because I would say I don't necessarily. I don't necessarily need you to tag me. Like I said,
Yeah,
I can't
no, I
even
got
have it
you.
on my Facebook, but
got
there is a link to a site that has some resources for help for people struggling with addiction that could just potentially help somebody if they're
should-
curious.
I definitely send that to me because I'll attach it to the episode. But also, you should say what it is on here, so if people can hear it and look into it. If you have it, if you have to like look too bad, it's
So I'll have to look for it. But
we'll
it's
attach it in the
actually,
description.
But yeah, it's just kind of a list of you can type in your area and it brings up a list of different like treatment centers that could potentially help, and there's also addiction hotlines for that just offers like 24/7 help of somebody to talk to if you're in a crisis situation. So I'll definitely send that link over to Colin, and then that way it can be linked down.
Yeah, we'll make sure of
underneath.
that because we want people like this was not meant to just like. Obviously, you can tell this wasn't a super silly one because we take stuff like this seriously, and
No,
we
it's
want people to
not
be able to get help and stuff.
definitely not meant to be not damning and not glamorizing. Just what it is. I mean, that's just that's a real take on it. Not trying to tell you, oh, just flat out drugs are bad, but then also not trying to be like, oh, this was fine that this happened, because that's not how that works.
And when we have you on again, which I'm hoping you're open to, we could definitely get into some more of the like looking back on things with a bit of a sense of humor and like,
for sure.
just seeing the pure comedy and craziness and the situations we get ourselves into.
Colin all the time that he's like, how the fuck are you still here? Like,
And
I don't
worry,
know.
we can go pit for pat or whatever that is, and I definitely got some stories of my own to where.
Yeah, your newspaper thing definitely trumps mine.
I
I never got into a newspaper.
I've been in twice.
Yeah, I've never gotten to a newspaper.
Fucking on the news.
Now I'm about to be on the channel of news or whatever.
Yeah.
Anyway, ... But yeah, this we're at an hour 40, so this was great.
Getting this shit out, boy.
Keep your eyes out for part 2.
Thanks for having me, and Marquise, you just keep it up over there, man.
Yeah.
Hey,
worked
I'm in
really
my
hard.
zone, like like AutoZone.
You were
We're gonna have a solo episode again here soon, like because I'm gonna coax you out, and we're going to have just a hang.
if you or someone you know is struggling and needs an emotional support, Marquise,
Yeah,
please call.
At $5.99.
we need a big leash.
Please call Scheuneman Brand Enterprises.
because he's hyperactive as
We'll sit
fuck
here and
too.
Marquise is standing by.
Yeah, and he'll just nuzzle up against your leg. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff.
On the head.
Yeah, and
Shop
shop
Scheuneman Brand Clothing.
Scheuneman.
Buy your favorite fucking jacket right now.
I love that fucking goose shirt is fire.
My girlfriend just bought one. Woo! ...
Cut that out.
Man.
But yeah, so
what's all this?
What is going
Oh
on?
my
I'm getting
gosh.
a lot of notifications. All right, have a great fucking day. Happy Sunday. Happy Scheuneman Show. Shop Scheuneman.
Show Sunday.
Bam.